Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the session. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me at the back? Yeah? Very good. So, I hope you've had a nice coffee break. The food looked fantastic. I'd only just had my breakfast, so I didn't have any. But maybe later. Just make sure you're going to be doing a little bit of pair work. You know, it's English class, so we've got to do some pair work. So just make eye contact with somebody nearby. Okay, give them a little nod. You'll be my partner. You can decide who's A and B later on. So, my name is Tim Warre. I'm a teacher trainer, and materials developer based in Barcelona. It's my first time in Lisbon. It's a beautiful city. But I have to leave this evening. I'm going to be here for about 24 hours, but I'll have to come back. I've been teaching English for over 15 years in Barcelona, mainly teaching teenagers, also adults, mostly in academy settings, but also in the public school system. And hopefully in this session you'll take away lots of useful activities and sort of frameworks that you can use in your classes with teenagers. So, let's get started. The title is Teen Tactics, Engaging and Encouraging Adolescent Learners. What we're going to do, our aims for today, in an hour, we're going to have a quick look at inside the teenage brain, because I think it's very interesting to get an idea of what's going on in there, because it explains some of the behaviors, okay? There are neurochemical reasons why teenagers act the way they do, and I think it's important to bear that in mind, no matter how frustrated we become with them. We're also going to look at some ways to get your teens talking in class. Okay, one of the big challenges is getting teens to speak in English in class for any length of time. So we'll look at some tactics, some things to do with that. We'll look at some ways to make your class activities more communicative. We'll also look at some brain breaks. It's very important. I think neurologists say that every 30 minutes they should take a 3-minute brain break to help them process what they're learning. So we're going to look at some ways of doing that. And then we'll finish with some games and activities for recycling language. I have lots of material. If we don't get through it all, you'll have the handout at the end with some extra bonus materials that we don't manage to cover. Some of the things in the talk are on my blog, freeenglishLessonplans.com. Shameless plug for the blog. So you can find some of the activities on there. I will indicate which ones are already on the blog. Okay? So, let's get started. Sorry, everyone's taking photos. Okay, so, first of all, with your partner, share your experience very quickly. Imagine a continuum from 1 to 5. Okay? How much experience do you have of teaching teenagers? Okay, so 1 on the continuum is none. 5 on the continuum is loads. Okay? And, wait. Did I say you could start? How do you feel about teaching teenagers? Okay, so 1 is petrified. And 5 is in my element. Maybe you're a 5 on the first one and still a 1 on the first one. Some people on the second one. Some people still are. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Place yourself on the continuum. Are you a number 3, a number 4? Okay. Thank you very much. Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hoo! Thank you very much. So, I'd like you to raise your hands. We're going to look at the first one first. How much experience do you have? Any number 1s? Any number 1s? No experience? No? Any number 2s? A little bit of experience? Okay, a few. Any number 3s? Any number 4s? Any number 5s? Whee! Very good. Okay, fantastic. What about, how do you feel about teaching teenagers? Number 1s, petrified. It's okay to admit it. It's okay to admit it. Number twos. Number threes. Okay. In your element. Oh, mostly in your element. Very good. Okay. Very good. Fantastic. Okay, well. So that's just to gauge a little bit where we're at. You're also all very experienced and very comfortable with teenagers. Fantastic. Okay, so let's take a quick look inside the teenage brain. So it's the second greatest period of brain development in our lives. The first is 1 to 5, so infancy. The second greatest period is adolescence. Teenagers have lower levels of serotonin, which can lead to increased aggression. And they have higher testosterone levels, which can also lead to angry outbursts, so more aggression, okay, and impulsivity. And they have a lower baseline for dopamine than adults. What does this mean? Well, we all get dopamine hits, right, from pleasurable experiences, things like eating your favorite food, listening to your favorite music, or getting a notification from Twitter. We get this feeling of a dopamine hit. We all get this, right? But teenagers actually require more dopamine for a satisfying result because their base level in their brain is lower than adults, okay? So this is the reason why we see them obsessively hunting for dopamine hits, and it's why they tend to become addicted to things like their phones, video games, and things like that, okay? So there's a neurochemical reason why they tend to get obsessed into these obsessive loops of behavior, okay? Because they're looking for that hit, and they have a lower level of dopamine. Some other things. There's two different parts of the teenage brain that are developing at different speeds, okay? One of them is the limbic regions, which are related to a reward and positive reinforcement. So the bits of your brain that goes, ooh, that's nice, ooh, that feels good, okay? And then we have the prefrontal regions, which are related to emotional control, decision-making, and risk assessment, okay? These is a very important part of your brain, but it develops slower than the reward part of your brain, okay? So the part that's supposed to be telling the teenagers, slow down, be careful, think about it, is less developed than the part of their brain going, ooh, that feels good, ooh, do that again, okay? So it leads to a risky period. It's called risky period by the psychologists, okay? So it leads to sensation-seeking behavior. They're looking for things that make them feel things, to fire different parts of their brain. Ooh, that felt good, do it again. Okay? And the part of the brain that's supposed to be telling them, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do it again, is less developed. So it leads to things like risk-taking, lack of impulse control, and it also means they're more sensitive to emotional events and stimuli. You'll notice that teenagers are very interested in things that make them feel different emotions. So when we talk to our students at the end of the year, we give them some sort of end-of-year feedback, right? Quite often we'll say, okay, what do you remember from this year? Okay, what were the highlights of this year in the class? What do we want them to say? Oh, the wonderful project we did about going green, or the other wonderful project where we planned that amazing trip around the world and everyone made their leaflets. We want them to remember that. Quite often, what they remember instead is a time that they won a game. So, for example, maybe they were playing Bamboozle. Have you played Bamboozle with your teenagers? Yes? It's a great game for doing sort of recycling vocabulary. And it tends to be, for example, you have one team that could be losing with minus 50 points and another team winning with 100 points, but at the last minute, suddenly they swap points and the other team wins. The one that was losing by minus 50 suddenly wins the whole game. And quite often your teenagers will be, I remember the time we were losing by minus 50 points and we won, rather than any of the sort of grammar you studied with them or the projects that you did with them. Or maybe they remember that we watched that funny video about the cat. Okay? You would introduce that video to illustrate a wonderful grammar point or language point, but they just remember that the video was funny because the cat fell down the stairs or something. Or a time a presentation went wrong. So maybe they were supposed to be doing a presentation in front of the class, and Sergi didn't save his PowerPoint properly, and he went up to do his PowerPoint, and there was nothing on it, and it was blank, and it was really funny, and Sergi was very embarrassed. So they remember these emotional moments more than they remember what we would like them to remember, because the emotional things are more important for them. Okay? So there was a study. They did a study with a driving simulator. So they put people in a driving simulator, and they wired up their brain reward circuitry. So they put sensors into their brain reward circuitry to see what their brain was doing while they were in this driving simulator. Okay? This was the situation that the people in the driving simulator were in. They were approaching a traffic light. Okay? The traffic light was on green, but as they were getting closer to it, it went to amber. Okay? We've all been in this situation. You have that decision. What do I do? Do I brake or do I floor it? Do I drive straight on through? Do I be an amber gambler? Okay, this is the situation. What do you do in this situation? Are you sensible or you floor it? Floor it, okay. So, this was the study. They put different aged people in this simulation in this situation, okay? Do you brake or do you floor it? They put teenagers in there. They put young adults in there, so 20, 21-year-olds. And they put adults in there. And there were two different situations, two conditions. They put them in there on their own, or they put them in there being watched by their peers. Okay? So just talk to your partner quickly. What do you think the results of the study were for each group? Okay? What effect did it have for the teenagers? Like, were the teenagers more or less likely to be risky? And what effect did the peers have on them? And the same for the young adults and the adults. Just talk to your partner. Predict the results. I think you probably guessed. But adults in this situation were less likely to take the risky decision than other groups in general. Okay? Makes sense, right? Apart from some of you who floor it. Adults in general. And they were even less likely to take a risk when they're being watched. Okay? So adults are like, oh, someone's watching me, I better be good, okay, I'm not going to floor it. Teenagers were more likely in general to take a risk, right? And even more likely when watched by peers, okay? Makes sense. So if you know any teenagers, typical peer pressure, they're more likely to do it, right? Young adults were somewhere in the middle, okay? So there's still some teenage trait left. If anyone's taught 20, 21-year-olds, right, especially in Spain, it's probably the same here in Portugal, they're still teenagers, right? More or less, okay? Sorry if there's any 20, 21-year-olds in. But what's interesting about this is the actual brain, what was going on in their brains, okay? So these are the results. This graph shows the activation of this part of their brain that's related to reward, okay? The black bar was when they were alone. Okay, so adolescents on their own. This is the part of their brain going, ooh, that's good. Okay, so when they're taking the risky behavior, they got that feeling of going, ooh, that's nice. And look, the adults as well, even the adults when they floored it were like, ooh, a little bit, okay? And the gray bar is when they're watched by peers, okay? So that part of the brain related to reinforcement and reward is lighting up like a Christmas tree in a teenager's brain when they're being watched by their peers. So again, it's kind of something neurochemical going on in their brain behind peer pressure, okay? So it's, in a way, they can't help it. In a way. Okay? So peers were good for adults. They were less likely. Look, like the part of the brain for the adult actually switched off, so was sort of affected negatively by being watched, okay? So they were like, oh, I better not floor it, okay? So we know teenagers assign great value to how they are perceived by their peers, and it's because of what's happening in their brain, okay? So, takeaways. Low impulse control. We know this. Can you be quiet and sit down? How many times have you said this to your students? When you lose it a little bit and you're like, can you just be quiet and sit down? Maybe in a slightly different tone. Quite often, the answer is, no, I can't, okay? My brain will not let me because of all the things going on in there, okay? They literally cannot. Peer validation is highly valued, okay? And losing face in front of their peers is disastrous, okay? Looking stupid in front of their friends is the worst thing that could possibly happen. They are sensation-seeking. We're looking for new feelings and emotions right now, in the moment, okay? And we're looking to find and repeat rewarding behavior. If something felt good, I want to do it again and again and again, okay? And we say to them, right, we say to our students, English will be useful in the future, right? English will be really useful in the future. This strange, far-off land of the future, right? And teenagers think, who cares? What can it do for me right now in this moment? Okay? What do I need to get through this class right now? Because you're thinking as a teacher, I've only got an hour and a half. I've got to cover this much of the syllabus. Okay? But an hour and a half to a teenager is like an eternity. Okay? How can I get through it? Teens and motivation, very important, right? Different types of motivation. We've got intrinsic motivation, right? Purpose, interest, mastery, curiosity, pride. I'm learning because I want to, because there's a real purpose, okay? Or because I'm interested in it. Or because I want to become really good at it, okay? I'm studying to play the guitar. I'm practicing playing the guitar because I want to be a good guitar player, for example. Okay? Or I'm curious. I want to find out stuff. Or I'm proud. I want to feel good about myself. Then we've got extrinsic motivations, so coming from the outside. Things like getting grades, points, earning money, career goals maybe, or exam marks. Okay? Why do teenagers study English? Awful lot of extrinsic things, right? Parents are paying. They have to get their B2, I don't know what it's like in Portugal, but in Spain they have to get their B2 first certificate at the end of university, for example. They want to get good grades, okay? It's all external pressures. So we can leverage this power of these extrinsic reasons in classes, things like giving grades, giving points, systems like this. But we want to be also fostering intrinsic reasons, intrinsic motivations, showing them, you're getting good at this. Positive reinforcement is one thing we can do, right? Hey, you're really good at this. If you spot something, if they've done a really good project, hey, what you did today was really, really good. Okay? You're really creative. Okay? You're a really good writer. Your writing has got so much better this year. Okay? Some teenagers obviously don't want to hear this in front of their friends. Okay? So maybe you need to say it to them quietly at the end of the class. So, let's move on. A little way to get your teens talking by using something called detachment. Okay? I got shown this by a teacher trainer in International House Barcelona, sadly no longer running, called Linderant. As we mentioned earlier, there's this fear of ridicule with teenagers, right? They don't want to lose face in front of their friends, in front of their peers. So why would they take the risk of expressing their opinion, their real opinion, in class in front of their friends? Because immediately one of their friends or one of their peers could say, what are you talking about? Or something like that. So that's why, quite often, teenagers are very, very reticent to express their opinions. And an unspoken opinion can't be ridiculed. So quite often, maybe you ask your teenage group some questions like this. What do you think about the impact of technology on society? Okay, it might be the question that comes up in the textbook, for example. And what do you hear from your students? Nothing. In Spanish, we have the worst 3-word response you can hear from teenagers. You have to tell me the Portuguese equivalent. It's, yo que sé. Yo que sé. With so much disdain. Okay, how do you say that in Portuguese? And what's the intonation of it? Yeah. Yo que sé. Okay? Because maybe they don't have an opinion about this. Maybe they do, but they just don't want to express it in front of the class. Okay? So what I recommend is try detaching from their opinion. Okay? How do we do that? We take one step away from their opinion. What do your parents think about the impact of technology on society? Okay? What do your grandparents think about the impact of technology on society? So the idea is we are just moving away from their opinion, still sticking to the topic. Okay? They can express someone else's opinion. Doesn't matter if someone else's opinion gets ridiculed. Okay? Because it's not theirs. So very quickly, just with your partner, answer the two questions. What do your parents think about the impact of technology on society? What do your grandparents think about the impact of technology on society? I'll give you 30 seconds. Let's hear some ideas. What do your parents say? Yoo-hoo! 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 What do your parents say about the impact of technology on society? Any ideas? Shout out. Yeah, you've always got your nose pressed to your phone. Yeah, okay, exactly. So things like this, I'm sure teenagers hear this all the time. Oh, that cell phone, that mobile phone's rotting your brain. Get off that. Get off TikTok. Okay? So they'll have lots in common to express about this opinion because I'm sure they hear it every day from their parents, right? Or their grandparents saying things like, whoa, in my day, we had to plan where we had to meet up. We didn't have Google Maps. So yeah, the idea is to detach from their opinion, take one step away from their opinion, because they're much more comfortable discussing someone else's opinion than their own. Okay? We can also structure it a little bit, if you want to give a bit more scaffolding and structure to the discussion. We can give them a scenario. We can say, imagine you're in a restaurant, having a family meal, okay? You as a teenager open your phone and start looking at TikTok, for example. What would your parents say? Would they say, I'm sick and tired of you doing that. Okay? Can you not do that now, please? Can't you wait until later? Or, oh, I've seen that TikTok, it's great. Okay, so give them some structure. They can choose which one it is. Okay? And then we can give them some bit more structure. How would you respond? How would you respond to that situation, to what they'd say? And how would this exchange make you feel? Okay? So, we're switching focus to their opinion later. We're going to get their parents' opinion first, okay? And then we switch, how would you respond? Okay? And then we focus on emotions. You know, we're talking about strong emotional memories. How would this exchange make you feel? Would you feel, I don't know, mortified if your parents admitted that they were into the same TikTok as you, for example? Okay? So, detachment. Try it out. It works really, really well. Okay? So I use it a lot in situations like this where you're going to do like a typical pre-reading or pre-listening. They're going to do some reading or listening in class about a specific topic, and they always get one of these, some of these questions at the start, which is supposed to like activate their knowledge about the topic. Okay? Is crime a problem in your area or country? If so, what kinds of crime exists? What are the main ways of preventing crime? Typical, quite often tumbleweed moments when you ask these questions, okay? Or you get monosyllabic answers from your teenagers. So use detachment, just rewrite the question slightly, okay? What do your parents say or think about crime in your area or country? What warnings do your parents give you about crime? Okay? So just rewrite the question slightly, take it a step away from their opinion, okay? It can definitely get them speaking a lot more. So, sorry, taking photos. You will get a handout, which has got the content of all the slides on it. Okay? But feel free to take photos. So, let's have a look at something else, something to get teenagers speaking, the disappearing dialogue. I saw this, a teacher trainer called Mark Ormerod. If you've ever seen him, he's fantastic. You can use this with any dialogue from your textbook or any dialogue that you create. Okay, choose any dialogue or create your own or generate one with ChatGPT. I'll show you a ChatGPT generated one later. This one is taken from a Macmillan book. And it's a grammar practice activity where they have to complete the gap with have you ever present perfect, okay? So if it's a grammar exercise, they can complete the grammar exercise as they normally would. Then we copy the dialogue onto the board, or you have it prepped on a slide. It's a bit easier if you have it prepped on a slide, but if you don't have a projector in your classroom, you can just have the dialogue copied onto the board, okay? So here is the dialogue. Students work in pairs and read it. But we're going to point out some pronunciation elements first. What pronunciation elements do you think you would highlight? Well, if we're looking at present perfect, have a quick chat with your partner. What would you highlight before they did the dialogue? Something to focus on. Just talk to your partner. I'll give you 20 seconds or so. Any ideas? What would you highlight? Shout it out. Any ideas? What would you highlight? Short answers? Yeah. Definitely ties into it. Any other ideas? The H, dropping of the H, did somebody say? Yeah? You got it. You got it what I was going for. I was going for strong and weak forms, right? Have you ever been to France, right? No, I haven't, but my sister has. Really? Which cities has she visited? Which cities has she been to? Okay? Has she ever visited London? No, she hasn't. Have you ever been to the UK? No, I've never been there. Have you? Yes, I have. I've been to Cambridge. Okay? So the hooves and the hus and the strong forms, okay? So, we highlight that first, because we want to work on that. Students work in pairs and they read the dialogue. Students are A and B, so now you can decide with your partner who's A and who's B. Ready? Okay? So what you do is you read the dialogue, okay? A, B, A, B, A, B. When you get to the bottom, you change roles, so A becomes B and B becomes A, and you start again. Okay? Easy, right? And you don't stop until I say. Ready? Okay? So, ready, steady, go. With a partner. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. You get the idea. Can we remember? What's the first one? Have you ever been to France? Ooh. We'll loosen that a bit. She's planning to go there for a short holiday. Okay. You get the idea. Okay? So it's great fun. Teenagers love it. It's a bit of a challenge for them. We can also, once we've done the disappearing dialogue, we can use it as a jumping off point for them to have a real conversation. Okay? So we then get them as a follow-up. We say, okay, choose 3 cities and 3 countries. Choose 2 friends or family members. Okay? Have your own conversation. Use the dialogue to help you. Okay? Have you ever been to the USA? No, I haven't, but my dad has. Really? Which cities has he been to? Washington and New York, I think. He went there for work, etc., etc., etc. And get them to write out the dialogue, or they can work on the dialogue speaking. But it's a good fun activity. You enjoyed it, I think. So, using dialogues. Dialogues are great for all classes, not just teenagers. They're less cognitively taxing, right? They're reading a script. They're not generating any output themselves. They're not having to think about what they need to say because it's all written out for them. It's good for practicing pronunciation, as we saw. Things like inflection, connected speech. It's detachment as well, because they're playing a role. They're not playing themselves, so they're not expressing their own opinions. They're not opening themselves to ridicule. It's good scaffolding for future activities. You can do this, like use dialogues for things like getting them to do exam speaking practice. You can also use it, obviously, as a vehicle for language points, in this case, present perfect. Also functional language. I'll show you an example with some functional language in a moment. Things like giving advice, or making complaints, or agreeing and disagreeing. Also for vocabulary. An example of a vocabulary one. Can you see that? Do you want to go back? So one for vocabulary. This is I used to be a director of studies. I'm not a director of studies anymore. And quite often, any directors of studies in? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. How often do you have to teach a class at the last minute? Like, the teacher for the B1 teens group is sick. The class starts in 5 minutes, you have to teach it. This is the activity I take into a teens class if I have to teach it at the last minute. It's dialogue for presenting phrasal verbs related to gossiping and relationships, broken up, cheating on, ask out, get on really well, hang out, fall out, looking back, looking forward to, pick up, put up with, turn up. Okay? You can download this from the blog. It's on there, freeenglish.lessonplans.com. Have you heard about Kate and Steve? No, what happened? They've broken up. No way. When did this happen? Yesterday. Apparently she'd been cheating on him for months with a guy from her gym. Seriously? That's horrible. Tell me more. Okay. Teenagers get really into it because it's, gossiping and talking about relationships and things. They get to look at the phrasal verbs in contexts. Then they get to make their own dialogues afterwards. Again, they're playing a role. They can invent whatever crazy stories they like. It works really well. One's for functional language. This is one I made with ChatGPT, which is pretty good. This is for complaining in a hotel. Because quite often, I don't know about, I find quite often my teenage students, when they go on holiday with their family, they have to do a lot of the English speaking because their parents don't speak English very well. Maybe it's not the same in Portugal because everybody speaks great English here. But in Spanish families in general, the teenagers have to do all the complaining or the asking for things. Okay? So stuff like in the hotel, things are going wrong. Receptionist, good afternoon, how can I help you? I'm sorry to bother you. I'm staying in room 204. Sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem? There seems to be a problem with. Okay, I apologize for the inconvenience. Would it be possible to change rooms? I really need a better Wi-Fi connection. Okay, so you've got short, basic role play with some functional language, and we can get teenagers to come up with their own crazy experiences or invent situations or scenarios in their hotels while they're on holiday, and they can practice this language through dialogues. So, sticking to English, getting your students to stick to English in class. Here are some techniques that I've used over time to do this. In English, how many times do you have to shout this to your students? In English, in English. You wouldn't play the flute in your piano class, so why are you speaking Spanish in my English class? Okay, you can say this to them if you like. One that I use quite a lot, this is an academy setting, but you could use it in other settings as well, is called beat the record. Okay? So we time how long the class can stick to English. So we get out a timer, and we say, right, how long can we as a class not speak any Portuguese or Spanish? Okay? And we start the timer. Right? We can give them some ground rules, so they can say things like, how do you say, and then a Portuguese or Spanish word, right? Okay? They can say a Spanish word or a Portuguese word, as long as it's in the context of asking how you say it in English. We start a timer. As soon as someone speaks Spanish or Catalan or Portuguese, the timer resets. Like, oh, Sergi, we managed 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes goes on the board, we start again, because Sergi said something in Spanish. Don't know why it's always Sergi. Poor Sergi. I'm sure you all have, as teachers, names you associate with naughty kids, right? There's some traumatic experience from your past where you've had one Sergi who was really, really bad. Or Joanne. I've always had a specific teenager who I remember that makes me tend to think that all Joannes are badly behaved, but it's not true. It's not true. So we write their personal best on the board. We go, right, okay, our best we did was 4 minutes. Okay, and then slowly, can we beat the record? Can we speak for more than 4 minutes as a class in English? And then you can compete with other classes. If you've got other classes going on at the same time, we can have a leaderboard. We can say, class 2B managed to do 45 minutes speaking only English today. Okay? What if they do a perfect class? I did this with a C1 group, and once they did 1.5 hours. They're like, okay, great. But then you say, okay, can we keep the streak going? So we're going to start the next class from 1 hour 30. Okay, I'm going to start the timer again on 1 hour 30, and we'll see how far we can do it. Or we can say, okay, you did a perfect class on Tuesday. You know, we've got sort of, everyone's obsessed with their streaks, right, these days, Duolingo or things like this. Can we keep a streak going? Can we do a perfect class on Tuesday, another perfect class on Thursday, another perfect class next week? Okay? Beat the record. Works well. Another thing I like to do, especially with my exam prep students, is give them language for pair work. Okay, you can download this from the blog. This is one for C1, but you can create other ones for other levels. So we give them these placemats, okay, which I put on their desks in front of them. So they have it on the desk for each pair, and they have the language that I want them to use for doing pair work, okay? So they've done like a use of English individually, they're comparing in pairs. What do you think about number one? What do you think it could be? Well, I reckon it could be B. It must be, it can't be. It's definitely not B. It's certain, I'm absolutely certain it's not C. Okay? And then some agreeing and disagreeing, so we're modeling some language for them to use. Okay? So we're encouraging students to do every part of the class, all tasks in English. And we're also modeling lots of useful language for exam tasks or for real life, you know, the agreeing and disagreeing stuff. They're modeling that language. And these are training wheels, okay? So maybe at the start of the year, in September, we start with these placemats on the desk. Then hopefully round about Christmas, we can take them away. And like taking the training wheels off the bike, they ride down the hill speaking English. All the tasks that they do. Gradually over time, we remove them. Okay? As we know with teenagers, lots of the groundwork that we do in September, October, sets us on a good foundation, right, for the rest of the year. Okay, let's move on. The Spanish card, or the Portuguese card for you guys. Okay, so a colleague of mine, Florencia Mantuan from THIC Idiomas in Barcelona, introduced me to this and told me how to use it, and it works very well. We implement this at the start of the year. It's important to start out the year doing this because it takes a couple of weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks to integrate it properly, but you have to stick with it because it works. Anyone who speaks Spanish, Portuguese during the class receives the card. Like, Sergi, sorry, you just spoke Spanish. Take the cards. Give them the card. Okay? And the person holding the card at the end of the class has to do a challenge. Okay? You can decide on some rules. So, for example, some teachers in my academy, they say words like this, sort of fillers, Spanish fillers. Okay, things like bueno, vale, pues. What's the equivalent in Portuguese when you're thinking? What do you say? Pues, it's like pues. It's similar. Okay, right. Okay. You can exempt them because sometimes Spanish speakers or students say these things by accident. It's kind of a crutch that they say. Okay, we can exempt them if you want. Okay. Speaking Spanish or Portuguese while holding the card means you skip a go. Because what happens sometimes is the teenager who's got the card thinks, I can speak Spanish then, okay, la 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 la, speaking Spanish. You're like, no, if you keep speaking Spanish when you have the card, then if someone else speaks Spanish, you still keep the card because you didn't speak English, okay? So the challenges, we need to come up with some challenges, right? At the end of the class, we roll a dice, and they have to do one of these things. They have to correct 3 sentences, they have to reorder a question, they have to write a short guided poem, okay? They have to read a tongue twister, or complete 3 sentences, for example, or speak for a minute about something. These are the challenges we give the person who ends the class with the card. Challenges should, so ideally the challenges that you set the student should have some pedagogical value, asterisks. One of my colleagues said she was teaching a group of teenage boys who were coming to English after football training, and they were always super hyped up. So the challenges she gave them quite often were things like do 10 press-ups or something to burn energy. But generally they should have some pedagogical value. They should be quick. They should be able to do them in less than a minute. And they should be completed in front of the class. So at the end of the class, whoever had the Spanish card has to do the challenge in front of the class. And it should not just be extra homework, right? Because homework is not punishment. Homework is supposed to be something of value, not be punishment. So I'll show you some of the challenges. Here are some examples. We've got, can you see that? It's a lovely big screen, isn't it? So they have to correct any 3 sentences. So they've got stuff like, English is speaking by 350 million people in the world. They choose any 3 and they correct them. Okay, what does your brother looks like? This is a guided poem. Okay, so they have their name and their surname, and they have to do 4 adjectives. So Alice, affectionate, honest, unimaginative, moody. Oldest daughter of Richard and Billy. So they have a little superlative thing about their family, what they like, okay, what they're afraid of, what they would like to do. Okay, so you can give them little stems that they have to complete. Something like this, so like a choose the correct option for a phrasal verb, or some tongue twisters, which are great. Have a quick look at, have a go at this tongue twister. Where she sits, she what? Where she what? What was that? Where she shines, she what? She shits? Okay. So these are some example challenges you can give them. Okay. It's amazing hearing you all going. Challenge examples for you. There's lots of them. So you can create these, have them in a little folder, in a bag, pull them out at the end. You can use challenges like this for any other sort of activities as well. So, another quick game, the disappearing sentence. I love disappearing things, disappearing dialogues, disappearing sentences, okay? Take any sentence from any text in your book, okay? Ones I recommend are quite good for this are things like, it has to be any sentence that's rich in chunks. It has to have lots of chunks and collocations. Or you can write your own, pack as many chunks and collocations in there as you can. Ones that are quite good are from open-close tests. So if you're doing first certificate or advanced or PET training, you're doing open closes. They are good candidates. So choose any sentence from here. I've chosen one that I like. Here it is. I've always dreamed of going skydiving, but try as I might, I've never managed to pluck up the courage to give it a try. Chunk hunt. How many chunks can you find? How many collocations and chunks of language can you find in here? Try as I might, yeah. We got lots, right? I've always dreamed of, right? Try as I might. Going skydiving as well, we could say. Never managed to. Pluck up the courage. Give it a try. Okay? Lots of good chunks in there. So, let's have a little go at the disappearing sentence. You're going to work in pairs. Here's our lovely sentence with all these chunks. So everybody just read the sentence to themselves. Familiarize yourself with the sentence. Read it to yourself, read it to your partner, have a bit of fun with it. Say it in a scared voice. Say it in an angry voice. Say it in a depressed voice. Now I'm going to pick on some people. Can you read the sentence for me? Yeah.
Always dreamed of going skydiving, but try as I might, I've never managed to put up the courage to.
Fantastic. Delete 2 words from the sentence. You can choose the words. Which ones do you want to get rid of? 2 words you can delete.
2 words, try as.
Which one?
Try as.
Try as. So we're going to get rid of try and as. Perfect. Fantastic. Okay, nominate somebody. Pick on somebody. Okay. Read the sentence.
I've always dreamed of going skydiving, but try as I might.
Fantastic. Delete 2 words, please. They don't have to be next to each other. They can be anywhere in the sentence.
Always and never.
Always and never. I like it. Let's get rid of those adverbs. Fantastic. Nominate somebody. Fantastic. Delete 3 words for me. Woo! Ooh, a whole chunk gone. Okay. Dreamed of going. Okay, pick on somebody. Oh God. Fantastic. Delete 2 words for me, please. Give. Give and pluck. Give and pluck. That sounds like an expression. I don't know what that means. You know, life's a bit of give and pluck. Okay, nominate. Fantastic. Nominate someone. Fantastic. Delete 3 more words for me. Skydiving, okay. Managed. Ooh, big ones. The long ones. Okay, and drop someone in it. Who do you want to choose? Yeah. Very good, well done. Fantastic. Okay, now imagine doing this with teenagers, right? Imagine them laughing at the one who wasn't paying attention and can't remember what the words are. Imagine them afterwards getting revenge. You laughed at me. Well, it's your turn. I'm deleting these 3 words, and now you have to do it. Okay? So I always do this at the end of class. Okay? It's a great last activity in the class. And we can get the sort of all of the students being able to read out the entire sentence, and it's full of all these chunks. We're doing lots of lexical priming, getting to think, pluck, what comes after pluck? Pluck up, okay, pluck up the courage, okay? We're doing lots of work on getting them to associate these words with each other, okay? They choose one word, they rub it out. So we do this on a whiteboard, right? I'm just rubbing out the words. They challenge their classmate to read the sentence, rub out 2 more words. Continue until there's nothing left. So you just have a whiteboard full of lines and students reading out this wonderful sentence full of lots of language. Okay? We can do forfeits or challenges for failed attempts. So like, you did it wrong, so you have to do 10 press-ups. Or you have to do a tongue twister, for example. Okay? It's very, very good. It's good fun. So, fun and competitive is a really good closer, a warmer for the next class. So you could do it at the beginning of the next class as the warmer. You can put up the words, just the blanks, and go, how much of the sentence can you remember? Okay? And you might find that they'll remember the meaning of the sentence. They might think of saying, I really want to go skydiving, but, I'm too scared to do it. They might remember the meaning. And okay, they remember the meaning, can we fill out the language, okay? So, it works well. Here we go, it disappears. Short but rich text, you want it to be very rich. Lots of repetition, lexical priming. And you want instinctive future recall. Stuff like, dreamed of. We're trying to get this connection, right? It's always dreamed of. Try as I might, these chunks. Fun and competitive. You can use impressive sentences from your students' written work as well. So if the student does a lovely book review with a really nice sentence, take it out, put it on the board, and we'll play with it. Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. What shall we do with our 6 minutes? Shall we talk about project-based learning and more community projects? Or should we skip this? This is in the thing. This is in the handout. You can check it out there. Let's do some brain breaks. We need a brain break, right? It's good. I recommend checking this out. Brain breaks. So, like I said earlier, neurologists recommend a 3-minute break every 30 minutes for high school students. Okay? Helps to consolidate learning, and it's part of the active learning process. Okay? So stopping thinking about what you're supposed to be learning, having a little break, and then coming back to it can be very helpful for you to consolidate what you're supposed to be learning. Helps you compress and consolidate memories of what's just been practiced. So anything that involves, a brain break can be anything that involves laughing, moving, listening to music, interacting with your peers, okay, some sort of physical activity, something creative. So let's take a look at some brain breaks. Think outside the box. So, complete the picture very quickly with your pencils and your pens, your lovely notepads that Macmillan has given you. You've got this shape here, okay? Complete this shape, make a picture with it. It has to include this shape, but it's not allowed to be a box. You have to think outside the box. Go. Draw a picture. Has to include this L shape. Hold up a picture. What have you drawn? What is it? A house. Fantastic. A house. Very nice. What have we got? Any other pictures? I can't see that. A diving board. Fantastic. Very creative. Okay. These are some examples. Pizza. Right? And people grabbing them. Mine. A present, which is a bit boxy. But, yeah. But you're immediately getting them to do something else. Okay, we pull out some emergent language as well from what the pictures that they draw. So maybe they drew the driving board, but they don't know the word for driving board, and that comes out in class. Okay, what's going on in this picture? This is from the New York Times. Is anybody familiar with this? What's going on in this picture from the New York Times? Yeah? Okay. Very, very good. So they take a picture from the New York Times, from the newspaper, and they remove the caption, and people have to guess what it's a picture of. Talk to your partner quickly. What could it be? Why are there so many dogs? That's right. It's a golden retriever. Celebration of golden retrievers in Scotland. 488. 488 golden retrievers. Lovely. I'll give you another one. What's going on in this picture? I'm feeding back. What do you think? Any ideas? Wrestlers. Yeah. Pretty much. This is called Subway Mania. Okay. It's this wrestling superfan. This wrestling superfan leads a troupe of performers. They cosplay as their wrestling heroes on the New York subway. So you might just be going to work on the subway and suddenly a big wrestling match breaks out in front of you. So there's hundreds. If you go to New York Times, what's going on in this picture? There are hundreds of pictures there. They've been doing it for years. And they're great little brain breaks. Okay, what's this? Give it to the students. What could be going on in this picture? Okay? Oh, it could be this, it could be that. Another one is what's going on in this graph. They also have what's going on in this graph. What does this graph show? Talk to your partner. What do you think it could show? Down south, but not so much up here, and then the opposite here, not so much down south. Any ideas? All the people that regret voting for Trump. Well, I hope so. It's not. It is Taylor Swift versus Beyonce. Okay? Location of fans, Taylor Swift versus Beyonce. Okay? So, can spark some conversation. Would you rather? Classic ones, right? Would you rather live in a world with no technology or a world with no nature? Would you rather have the ability to speak with animals, the ability to speak all human languages fluently? Would you rather have your favorite movie character as your best friend or your favorite book character as your sibling? You can go to wouldyourrather.io and it automatically generates would you rather questions for you. Okay? So if you see that your students are getting, overexcited and need a brain break, give them a quick would you rather. This is a good one. You can get this from Google Arts and Culture Game, odd one out. If you just Google that, find the AI-generated piano. Which of these photos is AI-generated? Second one, third one, not sure. It's the third one. This one has weird keys, right? It looks like the keys are a bit off, right? It's good training for your students as well to get good at spotting AI stuff. We have run out of time. Aww. There's lots of extra stuff that you get in the free bonus handout. Oh, Hey, I've got a problem. I always over-prepare. All my classes, all my sessions. Get better at editing, Tim. Tim, take a photo. I had to remind myself to take a photo of all you lovely people. So you should get the handout. Might be in a slightly different order. And I'm not going to move it, don't worry. I'll get out of the way. Does it work? Yes. Good. And give me a smile. Give me a smile. I'm so bad at selfies. Hey! Let me take another one of you guys. It's a lovely auditorium. Very nice. Further reading. If you want any recommendations for further reading about teaching teenagers, Chris Rowland's books. He's just released a new one, just this one. And Teresa Bestwick and Fiona Mocklin have released a book on it as well. These are great resources if you need some extra tips and stuff about teaching teenagers. Okay? Thank you.